In this video, I'm just going to give you a really quick introduction to what happens when you actually level up. What happens when you finally choose that big goal you've been dreaming about for years? What happens when you finally switch to in-person sales over giving out the digitals? What happens when you finally choose you over what's expected or what's safe or what's small? I'm going to give you two examples from my own life, personal and professional, actually how they all tie together, how I got past them, how I recognized them, and at the end, I'm going to give you an example of how photographers do this and hurt themselves. I'll also share with you a really easy book to read that goes into this further and gives a ton more examples that I found very valuable for me when I wanted to level up. So let's get started. So hey, I'm Heather McKay. I'm a professional wedding photographer who has been around for like 2 decades, and I've leveled up in a lot of ways, as we all have when we have grown and changed and gotten older. So what am I talking about here? What I'm talking about are when we try to take those big leaps, when we have that big, hairy, crazy, audacious goal, something that everyone in your life thinks you're crazy for trying to do, that kind of goal, like big leap goal, like a huge change. With New Year's coming up and my last video on my channel of being about a photographer who quit his lucrative day job to become a photographer, this is why I want to record this, because most people do New Year's resolutions of like, I'm gonna lose 50 pounds or whatever, and they never work. It's less about why those things don't work, but more importantly, what happens when you finally let the excuses go? What happens when you finally choose your happiness and what you know to be right for you and level up in your life in whatever fashion? What happens? What happens is the universe, whatever you want to call it, roadblocks are going to be put in your way to test you. That's what I'm talking about today. And what does that mean? It means that when you finally choose to live your life authentically in whatever way, when you finally say, nope, today I'm going to do it. Today I'm going to put on my big boy pants and I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to do this. I'm going to level up. That's when 9 times out of 10, you're going to find the universe throwing boulders in your way to test you, to see, do you really want this? Is this something you really actually want to do? What's actually cool about it is it tests you. You know that you really are ready for it if you're getting these boulders. If you're getting these roadblocks, it means you're doing something right. Honestly, if you become terrified, that's great. It means that you are actually ready to level up. That's the cool part. When you are scared shitless, that means it's time. Well, you're not only gonna be scared shitless, but also none of that stuff matters. When you're really ready to level up properly this time, for real, that's when you really don't care about all that other stuff and the excuses no longer serve. The excuses sound empty to you. So let me just give you 2 quick stories about how this has shown up in weird, really sneaky ways that I'm still unpacking and looking back with perspective. I just think this will help you figure out how to watch for it when you try to level up. So a lot of people who watch my channel are photographers who are going from what we call shoot and burn, which is photographers who give out the digital files and don't charge enough. Then eventually what happens is they figure out, I'm not making any money and now I want to make money and now my clients aren't doing anything with those files and now I want to be an in-person sales photographer. I want to level up, raise my prices, start offering products. I want to no longer give digitals away. That's my normal person who uses me for coaching. So what happens is they'll say, okay, January 1st, I'm changing my entire business model. Everything's going to change for my photography business. I'm no longer going to give out digitals. Problem with that is you really should have started that already and gotten some holiday sales. January 1st is the worst possible time to do it. So what's going to happen is no one's going to book you because it's winter and you're going to blame it on your new business model. Okay, so I just want to give a little perspective of why I'm talking about this on my channel. So now the way that it's shown up in my own life, there's 2 times that are really big recently where this showed up. It was in 2012. My New Year's resolution that year was to finally do all the things I knew I was capable of doing. To finally live up to my potential is the way I looked at it. I knew that I was a little lazier than I needed to be in my business. I knew that I could market more and I could just show up more and I could hustle more. I knew I had a little more in me. So my New Year's resolution was to be out and be seen and say yes to every opportunity and reach out and partner with people in my area. And I did a bunch of art shows, and I really spent that whole year just like, yes, yes, yes. I threw a huge 10th anniversary party for my business. Huge. I made it like a wedding. But at the same time, I also was hustling. I was like, I had all these art openings, and I just did all kinds of really cool stuff that whole year. I really actually leveled up and said yes to every opportunity. And I worked, and I was like always out. I was exhausted. And what I'm talking about with like the universe throwing a curveball my way was, for 3 months, my contact form on my website was broken. Yeah, that happened. My website broke. And I was so busy living up to my potential and choosing me and leveling up. I was so busy, I didn't have time to fix it. I didn't realize it was broken. So that was deflating. It crushed me. When I realized, I had an inkling that it was broken or something was wrong, because I thought, well, man, I'm really doing all this stuff. I thought I should, okay, maybe people don't care. Maybe people don't like me. I mean, that's a natural artistic and small business owner reaction, right? Is to be like, maybe people just don't care. That's valid. That's probably true. But what happened was my freaking contact form was broken. I was getting like 1 out of 10 emails. That's it. So finally someone told me, they're like, hey, you never responded to my email. And I'm like, I'm in front of my computer for 12 hours a day. That is not possible. So that was a huge curveball that was thrown my way. And it was thrown my way specifically to test me. Are you really this new person, or is this just a persona you're putting on? I can let you know honestly that deflated me. I thought, well, I crushed it that year doing all the things, and I made the same amount of money as the year before, so why work so hard? It threw me into victim mentality, honestly. And I was just like, the next year I was like, well, screw it then. So it had the effect that it was meant to have, right? Apparently. So let me give you another example from my personal life. So, and it's actually related. The funny thing about looking back over time is things all connect. The dots connect if you look at it with a higher view. What happened next was that I was so burned out on the business and hustling and it not paying off and just getting by, because my, all that marketing didn't work, and I had to rebuild my whole website, the whole 9 yards. A couple years later, I actually had a couple banner years and a great year where it was actually, everything was easy and I didn't have to hustle so hard. But I got really, really burned out anyway. And I was so tired of situations like that happening that I decided to level up in my personal life. I decided, you know what, screw it. I've been talking about going to Africa for 20 years, and if I don't do something now, I'm going to blink, and it'll be another 20 years and I've not gone. So I just put a date on the calendar. And this is the key, is you have to actually like decide to do something. You can't just say, well, tomorrow I'm going to work out, tomorrow I'm going to work out, tomorrow I'm going to work out. No, you have to actually just make it a part of your life and just jump in with both feet. Otherwise, it's never going to happen. So I picked a date. I was like, 2 years. That's realistic. I can pay off debt. I can make some more money. I can save. I can figure out how to get there for free. I can get the vaccines. I got 2 years. It's plenty of time. This was what was fascinating, is what ended up happening was like anything that could go wrong financially did go wrong. I did have a banner year and I was able to save and pay down debt. But at the same time, literally like, this is just, I called to like cancel my homeowner's insurance to get a different policy to like negotiate, because these are things they say you should do as financial people, like, oh, shop around. Well, I did that. Well, my insurance tried to cancel me because I needed a new roof and a new chimney. Awesome. So there goes all this money out of my savings for Africa for a chimney for a non-working fireplace. Awesome. So there's $4,000 out the door. I have another video on that, ranting about that contractor because he should have upsold me a real solution. So if you want to get better at sales, go check out that video and I'll link it in the sidebar. That was happening all those whole 2 years. Everything that could go wrong financially did go wrong, even though I was smart and I was saving and I was doing everything I needed to do. But these were the universe, and whatever word you want to use for that, sending me roadblocks to test me. Are you really going to go to Africa? Are you really going to do this? Are you going to really take 7 weeks off? Are you really going to do what you say you're going to do? This big, crazy goal. Finally choose you over your circumstances. That's what's going to happen, is you're going to have these roadblocks. If it doesn't come up in that kind of intangible way, the other way that it can come up, everyone in your life can tell you it's a terrible idea and that you should stay small and stay where you are and stay put because what you're doing is working. That's the other way it can show up. For me, it always shows up as physical struggles that I have to go through that like I have to get myself out of, which is exhausting. But for you, it could show up that everyone thinks that that's a terrible idea, and they try to talk you into staying where you are because it's safe and it's what you know. But when you have that itch and when you have that fire, when you know in your heart that this is what you need to do and you choose to level up, those are the things you're going to run into. You're either going to get everybody in your life telling you that that's a terrible idea and don't do it and stay small, or you're going to get all these really random, unexpected roadblocks to test you. But I have a couple answers for you today. One is that that's how you know that you're doing the right thing. Because guess what? Those naysayers in your life, the people who tell you you can't quit your job to become a photographer or whatever it is, they're the ones that are terrified that you're actually going to succeed. Because that means that they're not following their dream. That's really what it is. The real people who actually support you will help you figure out how to make your dream possible with reality and next steps and referrals and whatever. If they're naysaying you and everyone's naysaying you, I mean, you do need to check and see, like, maybe you shouldn't, like, marry a dolphin or a unicorn or something, like, random. But if it's just, like, going on a trip, big deal. You know, if it's just starting a business, people do that all the time. Like, if everyone is naysaying it to keep you small out of their fear because they're not leveling up, that's how you can get past it. Look at that. What does it say about them that they're trying to keep you small? Okay? And then if it's the physical things like I end up getting, I usually don't get that support. Like, I don't get that from my people in my life. People in my life are supportive when I do crazy things because I'm always doing something crazy. But when it's something else, like for me, like having to get my roof replaced and my chimney replaced just because I was trying to renegotiate my homeowner's insurance, like, and there was like not just that, there was like 7 things that happened. It was just like constant financial burdens as I finally paid off my debt. This is like a common thing that happens to a lot of people. When you try to get debt free, your car will break down or whatever. It just is what's going to happen. So when you can look at it in that perspective and say, oh, this is how I know that I'm on the right track. This is actually how I know I'm doing it. And it's just the test to see, do I really want to finish this marathon? Right? That's it. That's all it is. It's actually the goal. It's actually how you know that it's the right thing for you. That's shocking perspective to look at it that way. And the irony with my Africa story, for example, and with my website story, actually both stories, when my website broke, I spent the next 3 months during my busiest time of year purging my old website because I was fed up, and I rebuilt my website. Like from scratch, did it myself, working 14-hour days, 16-hour days, like bonkers, doing it like constant. That version of my website ended up converting so well that 2 years later, I had my best year I've ever had. So it was a blessing in disguise. So that's another way to look at these things, is they have roadblocks and burdens and boulders, but what they make you do is check yourself, do I really want this? And also sometimes it's a removing of a blockage that's actually going to propel you forward. That's now how I see it. I was so bitter about that website scenario for a while until I realized that next version of my website converted like gangbusters. It was the reason I could go to Africa. I had banner year after banner year, and then people were converting so well on my website that I didn't need client meetings anymore. So I could take 7 weeks off to Africa. So it actually all worked together. When you look at it from a weird view like that, instead of like victim mentality of woe is me, it's amazing when you change your perspective what can happen, okay? So the other thing that happened is I went to Africa and I did all that and all the burdens and the financial struggles and the blah-de-blah. But guess what that did? Is that now I have this online business. I would not have built an online business and streamlined my business the way I have to be client meeting free as much as I have had I not gone to Africa. And the craziest part of that is it was such a struggle to go that first time. Personally, in my heart, I never shared this with anyone. That's why it's kind of a unique video for me to put on. But it was so hard to plan that first trip to Africa. It was hard. All those roadblocks thrown in my way, and I really was just like, I don't care. I don't care. I'm going to Africa. I don't care. I'm going to Africa. I was so sure that that was the right path for me. The irony is I went back to Africa for the same amount of time 2 years later on a lark. And I had none of those roadblocks at all put in front of me. So this is what happens, is that's why I say it's that nugget. If you're running into resistance and everyone, like all the things I've talked about, if that's happening to you, that's actually how you know you're on the right track. Or it's you look within and say, I really don't want it that bad. But that's why you have to really think about it from a higher perspective. Do you want it that bad? Maybe these are the blessings in disguise. So I'm just gonna leave with this last little nugget, a really great, easy, approachable book. It's not mine, I don't have a referral link for it, but a great book that goes into this at length, in depth, that I just found fascinating. And it's what really helped me connect all these dots. It was a few years ago I read this book called The Big Leap. It's really a great book if you want to learn the ins and outs of where this can show up in weird ways in your life. The guy gives all these examples of how people deal with it and how it shows up. Find it at any bookstore. It's called The Big Leap. So that's a great little book that I recommend. So just reach out if you've run into this. I'd love to hear a story that you have of when you've really tried to level up. And I will just leave this by saying, go look at the last video. My friend Pat, I just interviewed him about quitting his corporate job that he loved and becoming a photographer, but he did it after 20 years. And now he's thriving, he's doing fine. So he kind of waited too long, and he gets into the why in the video. So that's interesting. And then also just dig around, because if you're a photographer and you're looking to level up January 1st, don't wait until January 1st. That's actually another boulder you're putting in front of you. You can just talk to your current clients right now, the ones you already have, and start talking about products. Start helping them with their holiday gifts. Ask them if they want holiday cards. Blah, blah, blah. Just reach out to your current clients. Don't make it such a big, crazy, hairy-ass goal. And that's my last little tip for today. Let me know what you think. And if you're new to this channel, hit subscribe. And I'd love to see you around. I'd love to have comments and see who's listening and watching. And let me know specifically in the comments below if you've run into this in your life, or if some situation in your life peaked when you were like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that. I would love to hear those in below. All right, you can do it. Level up. Choose you.